Right. I mean, those were failures, like what you're mentioning, that was considered a failure and actually a negative.
Mm.
But you do find it in great people, and it's not necessarily a failure. When we talk about Abraham, we talk about Moses.
Yeah.
Why have you sent me? Why have you done evil to your people?
Yeah.
So those interactions are not, are lessons for us as well. Main thing there is that, the idea of not so much for our own interest, but for other people's sake. Say, God, how, this unease that we are meant to have with injustice.
Mm.
Like, is the judge of the world will allow injustice to happen?
Yeah.
That feeling and that questioning is actually a necessary part of the interplay that we have with God. Here's an important point that people have to realize. We're
Yep.
not meant to be okay with 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 cruelty and evil and injustice. And God doesn't want us to be okay with it. God doesn't want us to say, well, it's all God. He knows what he's doing. I can't understand him. Human beings are finite. God is infinite. How could I imagine to understand him? So therefore, I'll just accept and put my head down. No, he doesn't want that. He wants us to, in a sense, say, no, this is not all right. You know why he wants that? Very simple. Here's a good. I mean, Elie Wiesel was asked, why did God allow the Holocaust?
Mm.
And he got a little bit indignant, and he said to the person, and if I will give you the answer, if I come up with a response that you understand, is that going to help you sleep better at night? Like, what are you hoping to gain out of a response to why a Holocaust?
Yeah.
So in other words, when we see other people suffer, and we then come have a theological understanding of why it happens, we're basically saying, okay, it's fine that they're suffering. It's okay. There's a reason. There's a logical reason for it. Right? I mean, if we're in pain because we went to the gym and we worked really hard and our muscles are aching. So we're not upset about that. It makes sense. You exercised, you did a good job exercising. Now your muscles are going to ache. You're a little bit of pain. Okay. Yep. It's acceptable. I know I'm getting a benefit out of it and so on. If we're going to say, okay, this bad thing happened to you, why? This is the reason. It's something good's going to happen, or because you deserve it, whatever it is. Any reason we give means we make it acceptable. And God wants us to understand that evil is not acceptable. When we find a reason for evil, then we are justifying it. God does not want us to justify it. God wants us to, when we see another person suffering, he doesn't want us to justify it. He wants us to call out to him and say, how come? Like Abraham did, you're the judge of the world. How can you allow injustice? Moses says, from the time you sent me, things have gotten worse for the people.
Yeah.
Not better. And so God wants us to use that argument so that we care. Because the reality is, if the injustice is something that we feel is unacceptable, we will do something to try to alleviate it. That has to be our response. That has to be our perspective. But if we've come up with a logical reason of why it was necessary, then okay, it's necessary. So you're okay with it. So you won't be doing anything really to change it.
Totally see the point with that. Like it gives us this insight into his nature. He wants us to wrestle with him. He wants that. He wants the pushback. And that's something that kind of astounded me. I mean, I really and like I shudder to say I would disagree with you on anything, because you're very very learned. I think you can understand the point of suffering without that stopping you wanting to ameliorate it. You know what I'm saying? But because I mean, can you
The
though?
very fact that you understand it already minimizes its we're not as, if we understand it, we're not going to be as passionately against it.
I don't know. Like, I spent a lot of time. I kind of like, and again, look, I'm just thinking out loud, Rabbi. And if I say anything that, I'm not trying to be insubordinate here. And trust me, I'm seeking to learn.
Mm-hmm.
You're a teacher after all. But like, I spent a lot of time like talking to, some truly what we would call evil people. Like I was an operational police officer for my entire career. Some of that time was doing sex abuse work. I genuinely don't know how many murders I've been to. I just don't know. I've stopped counting how many murderers I know. I've actually broken bread with murderers, like they've been around my house. I've had really deep conversations with those people, like in the watch house, and especially when you're escorting someone, Rabbi. Like if you're taking someone to jail, like they've gone to court, it's all over. It's like, mate, you've been binned. They just want to talk. You know what I mean? So you're flying someone down to jail, it's a 2-hour flight or whatever it is, and you got to take them through whatever it is, and then take them out to the bin. They just want to talk. And if you just shut up, and it took me years, God forgive me, it took me years to learn to shut up and listen. But when I did just shut up and genuinely listen, like it was genuinely amazing some of the things that people told me. And where I'm going with this is it gave me a degree of empathy, not only with people who do things that are wrong. It also gave me a degree of understanding of like, okay, and sometimes suffering can bring people to God. You know what I mean? I think he uses all of these tools. There's no tool that he won't use to bring any individual, to him. I said that to a very good friend just recently who's going through tough times. I said, look, I'm not minimizing what's happening to you. Like you are truly suffering, and what's happening to you is bad. But what you've got to understand is this is probably God calling you. Like he's wanting you to sacrifice some things that are holding you back from him. You're going to have to burn those things off. So that's like, that's like meaning and point. That doesn't mean that I don't want to relieve that person's suffering. It's just that the way that person is going about it is the wrong way. It's like you have to let these things go. And if you let these things go, your suffering will be released. And not only that suffering will have meaning and point, and you'll get to a higher plane of understanding. Like if you get to God through that suffering, well then, thank God for it. I mean, again, I'm not disagreeing with you. Like my favorite book in the
Anyway, this is the
no, go on. Please answer that. I'll stop.
perspective. I don't have to repeat that. When we could do that for ourselves, not for other people. That's right for ourselves. For ourselves, we have to see, okay, how can I get over it? This is for my best. This means X, Y, Z. Maybe I have to change this or change that. Or for ourselves, yes, not for others. For others, we have to be indignant. No, it's not right. It's not okay. Because that's what they need to feel. They need to feel more than anything that we're with them, that we feel their pain. And that's all they need. As a rabbi, so to speak, and not so to speak, as a rabbi and as a someone who's involved in pastoral care, that's what people need. They need to feel you're with them. More than your advice and ideas and suggestions. They just need to feel someone is there with them when they're going through hard times. When they're going through hardship, they just want presence. You just want to feel someone's there with you.
Yeah.
And the more you understand the reason, like Job's, the friends of Job came to him, give him reasons.
Yeah, that's right.
Help him, right?
Yeah.
could be good reason, but it didn't help him. Because that's not what he wants. I need reason. I just need to know that you care.
And in the end,
I don't need you to be God's salesman.
Yeah. And in the end, God gets dismissive with him when he actually gets to confront God. Like, there's kind of like, when you read that, God's sarcastic. He's like, where were you when I put the stars in the skies?
Yeah.
Were you there when I needed you? Like, I'm sorry. He gets dismissive and condescending and sarcastic. Like, it's not even, there's no, you know what I mean? There's nothing there. I remember the first time I read Job too, it was like getting towards the end. It's like, oh man, we're going to find out. God's going to finally answer this. It's like, no.